and his face just drops. He's like, eyes bug out, jaw drops, puts down his beer, conversation's over, no more words are said to me, and I'm gone. He's gone. And I'm just like, wow, man, if this isn't the manifestation in my face of rejection, this is the biggest, everything that I thought people were doing behind my back from Ohio to California to in Chicago, if it didn't just happen right in front of me, I opened myself up and I shared my truth, and somebody was just like, this is no.
Wow.
Really good in high school and getting
Makes you feel on top of the world.
I can always make excuses.
That applies both for
health to kind of
What fun is it if we all looked at
that path, don't have your friends.
All right, you guys, welcome everybody to the Mental Wellness Show. I'm joined here with Coach Lee Hopkins. Thank you so much for joining us. So Lee, I want to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself, and then I want you to kind of take it away from there as far as like your story. So Coach Lee Hopkins, you help people create lasting friendships and basically not be so lonely. So I'm curious on like your story, and if you can kind of tell everyone how you got into this position where you're helping people not be so lonely and create better relationships with themselves and other people as well.
Well, yeah, thanks, Max, for having me. First of all, I really appreciate the invitation to join.
Of course.
Yeah. So what I do is help people make genuine friendships and meaningful relationships. And I got into that whole thing because I've had difficulty doing it myself. For my entire life, it feels like I was just not able to make connections with anyone. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. And there, I just felt really disconnected, like misunderstood. And I just figured, well, as soon as I go away, as soon as I leave or go somewhere else, my life will be different. I'll have a new experience. And sure enough, I had the opportunity to go to college. And in college, I met people who were from different places, different backgrounds, and even some international students, but I still felt like lonely. And so I decided, well, it's the entire state of Ohio. It's the whole thing. It's messed up. It's broken. I need to leave it. And so I had an opportunity to leave, to move to California. And there I met some spectacular people. I was able to reinvent myself into a person. Like, I enjoy karaoke, so I was on the scene a whole lot. I met a lot of people who really like would high five me and would know what my drink was and would say hello to me. But the conversations didn't move any further than that. I just felt, I know a lot of people now, but I'm still kind of alone. And that feeling stayed with me. And so I thought, well, again, I'm picking the wrong states. I need to leave California. So I had an opportunity to move to Chicago. And I thought, wow, this is perfect. Okay, this is like the second largest city, maybe third now, largest city in the US. If I can't find somebody to connect with here, then there's got to be something wrong. So I come here, hit the ground, and I also discovered, I guess, for my transition from California to Chicago, that I thought one of the things that was held me back was being my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to Chicago and I transitioned from female to male. So as you see me now, I'm a trans man, and I've been for some years. But I thought that was the key. So I came to Chicago. No one knew me before. A whole new life. I find the people. I find the resources to become my authentic self. And I say it with quotes because that wasn't it. It still wasn't it.
Right.
I still didn't make connections with people here. And that's when I discovered that, well, one, I didn't know what the problem was. I just knew I was a common denominator. And two, I needed somebody else to help me find what the problem is. And then three, well, after I found what the problem is, I've got to tell everybody. I've got to tell everybody about this. So that's how I became a coach. I had this entire experience where I felt just completely rejected and alone. And I discovered, well, there are things that I can do about it to change the situation. And now I've just got to tell everybody about it.
Right. Thank you, Lee, for sharing that. And I want to kind of make a point about how you kind of said, oh, maybe this is the thing that's making me feel lonely. Let me move out of state. And then maybe that's the reason. So I think a lot of people go through kind of thinking this will make me feel better. I will be much better after this. And I relate to this because back in after I graduated high school, I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And I was also in a phase of, that was kind of the first time I became depressed. And I kept thinking, maybe this is the thing that's going to get me better. This new job is the thing that's going to get me better. This new car is going to be the thing that's going to make me happy and get better. And it's like, I guess, you got to kind of, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but you got to like kind of dive deep into yourself and figure out what's going on. It's not an external thing really that's going to make you feel better. It's something inside that you got to figure out. So I just wanted to make that point. And also real quick, I didn't really do a good introduction of the show. Welcome to the Mental Wellness Show, everybody. If you're new here, the show is all about positivity, mental health, fun, everything in between. If you're back, thank you guys for supporting the community, and let's get right back into the show. So Lee, I'll go ahead and ask you a couple questions here. So the first question I wanted to ask is, what's the root of loneliness? Why, and in your experience, why do we feel loneliness? You mentioned that, you're connected to so many people. It's just kind of small talk, but there's all these people around us. Why do we feel lonely?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Max, when you just stole the show. You stole the show.
My bad.
When you did that. No, I mean, honestly, I think it is something that we all recognize, but we don't know where it's coming from. This loneliness is like we're always looking for something externally to help us resolve the problem that's happening internally. So I share my story about being trans, not because I expect everyone out there to relate to being trans, because we're only 1% of the population. No, it's because we're similarly looking for something, a milestone, whether it be physical, whether it be some kind of emotional milestone where like, I'll be happy if I do this thing for myself. I'll be happy if I start saying this thing for myself. Really? No, not really. It's more of an internal thing. How is that going to feel internally rather than relying on something externally? And I think we do that. I know my experience, that's all I've done is move from Ohio. And within Ohio, I moved from here and there and stop talking to friend groups and start talking to different friend groups and doing all these things that I thought externally was going to make this change and make me feel happily internally.
Right. So thank you. And it kind of leads into this, this next question is when someone's facing loneliness, what's something they can do like right now? Like what's the first step to overcoming that? How can they kind of figure out that internal reason of why they're feeling that way?
What I discovered for me, and I think it's true for many other people, is that the loneliness happens because there's something that's really, really, really deep and important to us that we desperately, desperately want to share with another person, but we are terrified to do so. And we become lonely because we want somebody to understand us. We're like going through the world like, I want you to understand me. I want you to know who I am. I want this. But we're not speaking our truth because we've had experiences. Maybe we've had experiences. I know I've had experiences where speaking your truth gets you into some kind of trouble. People around you may have shown you that speaking your truth is a bad thing. And it starts off with little things, like little things that you might enjoy and share with people. Like maybe growing up in your experience, you may have like expressed that you enjoy artwork. Like my example, I like to share, I enjoyed artwork and I wanted to do artwork, but I've always got this feedback that being an artist is not good for you because you're not going to make any money. Don't express that feeling of joy for art. And it came at me in these ways that may have sounded helpful. Like we want to make sure that you get a career that helps you survive because we're thinking of how you want to be successful. But that little thing or that experience has taught me, don't open up about things you enjoy. And I've had many, many, many little experiences along the way that just culminated into me not wanting to share these big, important things about myself later on in life.
Yeah, Lee, I kind of made a connection there with myself. When I used to be really kind of money focused and like career focused, and I'm totally opposite now. I'm more about finding what makes me happy, what I'm passionate about. And during that time where I had the things I thought were important to me and the rest of my life, I was set. I'm like, but none of this really matters if I don't have somebody to share it with and be with and understand and share what I'm feeling. You mentioned like we want to be understood. We want to share inside of us. And that's kind of part of the root of loneliness. So I totally relate to that. And I think a lot of people would relate to that. So I kind of want to get into being a friend to yourself. And one of the questions is like, what does it mean to be a friend to yourself? And how can it contribute to making lasting friendships with other people?
Being a friend to yourself. So being a friend to yourself is basically honoring that truth that we just talked about, that truth that I just mentioned, and living in that truth. Now, that's so easy for me to say right here, right now, but it's definitely taken me 3 states and a lot of time, maybe 3 decades to figure that out, that this is what you need. And a lot of us, well, I didn't really know what my truth was either. So being a friend to myself means honoring my truth, but I had no idea what the truth was about myself. So just to kind of give you an example, I grew up in Ohio and I grew up in a kind of conservative town. Well, a lot of people just, have experience with LGBTQIA plus. So I was presenting as female. So then I wanted to date women, and that was a problem. Like, I don't want to share that with people. I want to keep that deep inside of me. And then I move away from home and I come out and I have something else that's deep inside of me that I don't want to share. I find something else that I don't want to share. Like, I find myself in a community that is predominantly not people of color. So I'm like one of the only black people around, and okay, there's something else that I have to share that people won't understand about me. And I'm thinking that I'm being my authentic self in these spaces with these people, but I'm not. I'm not doing anything like that because I'm thinking that being a friend to myself means do whatever it takes to have people around you so you're not lonely. Do whatever it takes. So if you're not going to talk, don't talk about LGBTQ because that separates and makes people want to go away from you. Right. Don't talk about some Black experiences because that's going to make some people uncomfortable. But it's not honoring myself. It's not being a friend to myself. It's keeping all my feelings bottled up inside. Now, to this point, though, I'm not saying go out in there and be rowdy and like, I got a problem and I want to tell you about these problems of this. And I think, okay, no, that's not really what it is. It's having someone understand who you really are. And if you never tell people who you personally really are, then you're not going to get that friendship. So,
right.
Yeah, you also have to just to want to tie it up into a bow, you have to also acknowledge who you are. And that's the key piece of being a friend to yourself. Acknowledging who you are, your likes, your wants, your dreams, your hopes, what you want, and how you're going to go get it in life.
Right. You got to be unapologetically, authentically you. Shout out to Amanda Chamba. She was a guest on the show. She mentioned that, and you're touching on it now. It's like you need to be yourself because you'll attract the people that will love you for being yourself. And the people that don't love you for being yourself, they'll stay away. And that's good. We don't want those people in our lives. We want the people that will support us in our lives. So that was a great point there. So kind of finding the truth of like who we are, what steps can we take to become a friend to ourselves? Kind of touching on what we were just talking about.
Well, I like to share with people that boundaries are key. And boundaries is such a buzzword, but it really is important to have boundaries. That like to reframe what boundaries sound like, because a lot of people, well, including me, I've heard about boundaries in my 20s, now my late 30s, and all it meant was saying no. That's what I understand. Setting limits, saying no to people, saying no to things you don't want. Well, I'd like to help you reframe that because it's not all about saying no. It's more about saying yes to me. It's more about saying yes to my wants and my needs. So when we go and we have these boundaries, we need to have these boundaries, first of all. But developing these boundaries is how we make these authenticity of the connection to ourselves and to other people. Knowing what we want and knowing what we don't want. I think it's absolutely unfair and unreasonable to go into a relationship with a person, a friendship with a person, and kind of talk about all the things that you don't want so that you don't know what you do want. So reframing boundaries is meant to help you understand that boundaries aren't just for keeping things out, it's for keeping things in as well. So what you do want, what your likes and desires and your hopes are, going to going around having experiences and logging how you feel about those experiences is what helps you understand your authentic self. We get these boundaries because of happy accidents. We bump into something, ooh, and then we have an emotional experience about it, and then our brain logs it. I liked it, I didn't like it. Many times, we're not paying attention to that because maybe someone on the outside is telling us that's not important. How you're feeling is not important. Don't be in tune with your feelings. But it is super important to understanding who you are. If you've ever done anything that surprised you, or you ever were surprised by something that you enjoyed, it's because, you found a new boundary and you want to pay attention to that. So what I help people do is discover those. And to make it easy, I chop them up into 3 different categories. I call them your needs, your negotiables, and your nevers. Your needs are specific actions and behaviors that people do or that you enjoy and you want to keep having in your life. You need to have that in your life. It's not negotiable. Negotiables are, you can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you either way. And then your nevers are the ones that you don't want to see. Those are actions and behaviors, specific actions and behaviors you have an emotional response to that you do not want to have again. So categorizing those things and being able to say those to another person really helps you make the connection. That's living your authentic self because, you don't have my experience. I don't have your experience. I don't know what you want. And I'm hoping that you can tell me what I want. Tell me what you want. I don't want to have to guess from that. I don't think that's fair or reasonable.
Right. I love that about reframing your boundaries. And when you said it's not about saying no to the other person, it's about saying yes to yourself and what you need and want. Like that, I really love that. That was when you said that, I'm like, wow, I've never thought about it like that before. But I absolutely love that saying.
Wonderful.
So a question I have is, and this is something I've gone through too. I'll kind of give a preface to it. When I feel my loneliness, I really want to be around other people. I want to have all these friends. I want to go do things with these people. But when it comes time to making those things happen, reaching out to somebody and making that event happen, I sometimes don't even feel lonely anymore. It's like sometimes I feel like I don't need that. So that's kind of my personal thing. But a question that kind of ties into that is, what keeps us from being connected with other people, even though we may want to be? What keeps us from being connected with others, even though we may want to be?
Well, I pause and I have a little bit of a head spin here because I'm super curious about the comment that you made that you kind of just touched on and just left. I'm like, what?
We can dive into that. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? I want to be connected to people, but then I realize I don't.
I actually, it leads into you know what I just said leads into a better question. So we're going to pause on that first question. And I think it has to do with social anxiety. That's something I've struggled with for a while. So what I'll do is I'll feel lonely. Like, let's say I'm feeling lonely right now and I want to go hang out with people in my life. When I reach out to them and it comes time to maybe hanging out, I'm like, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I'm fine where I'm at right now. And it has to do with social anxiety, I think, for myself. And a question that I actually had that I wanted to ask you was, for those who struggle with social anxiety and loneliness, what advice can you give them to kind of overcome that social anxiety so you can meet people and build these connections with people?
Yeah, well, social anxiety will definitely stop you dead in your tracks from doing anything. Doing anything.
Right.
It's fear in disguise. Of course, it's fear about being rejected from other people. And I can tell you that in my experience, what I've done is been socially anxious from moving from Ohio within the groups to California to Chicago, where I thought just picture this now. I'm in Chicago. I have become my quote authentic self, being transitioned, seeing as I am right now, and I'm lonely because I'm just new to the city and I'm trying to figure out all the things that I didn't know before, like how am I going to make these connections? I go to therapy, and in therapy, it's a talk therapy group session, and I learn that I can put myself out there. I get kind of motivation and help and encouragement from the group. I go put myself out there. I go to this comedy event, and I think as I go there, I'm going to meet someone new. I'm going to hang out with someone. We're going to talk. I'm going to set that up. And we did. Sure enough, I meet someone, we talk, and I discover they're sharing with me that they've never met a trans person before. Never met a trans person before, doesn't understand the process. Why would anyone want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, my guy, I've got you. I'm going to make this connection. I'm going to be my authentic self, and we're going to be best friends. I open up and I share who I am, and his face just drops. His like eyes bug out, jaw drops, puts down his beer, conversation's over, no more words are said to me, and I'm gone. He's gone. And I'm just like, wow, man, if this isn't the manifestation in my face of rejection, this is the biggest, everything that I thought people were doing behind my back from Ohio to California to in Chicago, if it didn't just happen right in front of me, I opened myself up and I shared my truth and somebody was just like, this is no.
Wow.
The point I'm trying to make about social anxiety is that things like that are going to happen. And it is only until we confront them that we realize what we can do from them. So I believed my entire life before then, I believed that I was completely rejected until I see it right in front of my face. It happened, manifested right in front of my face. And I realized that it's okay. It's okay. I learned something. And what I learned is how, I don't want to say to control situations like that, but how to be more thoughtful in opening up if I'm going to feel some kind of rejection. I know that I'm going to feel rejection on the surface, but for deep, important things like that, I know that there's a process, onion peeling, open up in layers, and it's also a connection with the other person. Like I wasn't paying attention to how that person felt or what they believed. I just thought, well, it's good for me to share that with them. I may have traumatized them. I don't know. But being mindful of those behaviors, being mindful of how I feel in the little moments of rejection will help build a thicker skin when it comes to the bigger points of rejection. So that's what I would say for those with social anxiety, to really think about this, what you're going to be mindful about sharing something small and see how you feel about that rejection. And continue to do the really small thing until you can feel like you want to do something bigger and bigger and bigger.
So I actually just did a video about social anxiety yesterday. And to your point, I mentioned this too. It's about, it kind of ties into practice make perfect. So you went out there and you kind of have to have those experiences and just be okay with it, you know, be okay with the uncomfort that you're going to experience, you know, out of that uncomfortness can come growth, you know, and just be okay with that. There are going to be rejection. There are going to be some negativity, but out of it, you're learning and growing and you're getting over that fear of your social anxiety. So thank you for sharing that story. That's a pretty scary thing to think about, I think, for a lot of people, that rejection that you face like right there. But the fact that you overcame it and you're just like, you know, it happened.
Well, I want to make sure that it's not something that I was just like, no, I cried.
No,
I didn't cry.
I'm sure. Yeah. I meant like right now. Yeah. I'm sure it was pretty. Go ahead.
What's important about doing the social anxiety and doing this work is that you go out and you have the experiences and you log those experiences. You notice how you feel about them and what is happening in the situation, and talk about them. You know, express those feelings. Don't just let them. So I had talk therapy afterward. That's all I want to say about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll make that clear too. Like, being emotional and going through what you need to go through after something like that that's how it should be, you know. But now you're at a point in your life where you can talk about it and kind of share, like, here's what happened, here's where I'm at now, and here's how I'm thinking about it now. So anyways, thank you again for sharing that story. That's a brave one to share.
Of course.
So touched on a little bit about social anxiety. So my next question I want to ask is, how can I break down any walls holding me back from making these lasting connections with other people?
Break down any walls making the lasting connections. So the main things that I've discovered is that having these walls up are because you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of getting hurt. You're afraid of someone looking at you and as you reveal your authentic self and your truth, and you reveal the things that you like, the things that you don't like, you reveal those things and have somebody laugh at you, have somebody disgrace you or try to make you feel like you're less than.
Mhm.
That's the biggest fear. And it's recognizing that, oh boy, this sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's so true. It's that you really have to love yourself before you love anyone else. So understanding that no matter what else other people think about who you are and what you do, it doesn't matter. It only matters what you think about who you are and what you do. That it will help you create those connections, tear down the walls, because then you're able to hear other people's opinions. You're able to hear other
Right.
people's thoughts. You're able to hear other people and how they interact with or what they believe about you. Like, for example, I'm trans and a lot of people don't like that. And people want to tell me about how I should be somebody else. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm who I am. And I used to believe that I needed to be somebody else. But then if I reflect on my experiences, I believe that I should have been somebody else for my entire life. So when am I just going to start accepting that I like who I am? I like this thing. And I'm able to share that and discovering that also people don't really have the ability to change me. They can just share with me some ideas about what they want me to be, but they really can't. And just owning your authenticity will help you stop building up walls.
Right. Right. And I feel like the most cliche sayings are usually the most like true and like most powerful and the most that we need to kind of focus on because it's so true. Like you need to love yourself and be kind of confident in your own self before you can really make these like genuine lasting connections. So I really love that. And I kind of want to wrap things up a little bit here. And if there's well, two things. One thing is, what can I do right now after watching this video, if you're watching it, to start making genuine connections and stop feeling lonely? So, like, shut the computer down. What should I do right now?
All right, spend some time with yourself. Yikes! But spend some time.
Uh-oh.
Spend some time with yourself. Well, because there are three kinds of connections that you're going to make throughout your life, right? There's the connection with yourself. I call that me. The connection with one other person. That's interpersonal. That's you. And finally, a group of people, which I call we. So me, you, and we. All those connections start with me. What I believe, what I want, what I understand. And if you don't know those things, it makes it difficult for you to be able to make a connection with another person. So I would ask you I have two writing prompts for you to write down so you can know yourself a lot better. And to know yourself would be to understand what you're most grateful for. So I'd ask you to answer, what are you most grateful for? And that's going to help you know more about what's important to you. It's going to help you understand what your needs are more so you can communicate that to another person. What you need in your life, the things that you really are grateful for. And then the next prompt is, if you could change anything about your childhood, what would you change? And that is to prompt you to understand, what do you want in your relationships? It's kind of helping you understand what it is for the connection between me and you, one other person. What is it that people have done for you that you like or that you disliked and that you would like to change? So this prompt will help you understand kind of something you had experienced in your childhood that you really don't want to experience again, and reflect on why and see how that shows up in your current relationships or what you would rather do instead, so that you know what to look for instead of what you don't want. If that makes sense, there's a whole lot of things out there that you don't want, but there are only a select few things that you do want. So it's to
Right.
focus on what you do want.
Right. Identify those and focus on those. So my next question is, if anybody's watching, they want to know more about you, they want to reach out to you, where can they go to get in touch with you or learn more about you?
Well, sure. You can find me at patternsofpossibility.com/more possibility. There I have a free course. It's all about understanding connections. It's the me, you, we that we talked about just a moment ago. And then I also have a free 10 tips to making memorable conversations. We can always have some tips to draw us in to make us more connected with other people. And you can find me on social media, Patterns of Possibility, Instagram, YouTube, all those places, any relevant social media. Again, that's patternsofpossibility.com/morepossibility.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Lee Hopkins. And I'll put it in the description here too, so we can make it easy for anybody to click and go to that. So thank you, Coach Lee Hopkins. I feel like we touched on a lot of good stuff on overcoming loneliness and making lasting connections and starting with yourself first. So I really love that. Thank you for coming on. If you would stay, I'm going to close the show out, and then if you would stay just a little bit after, so we could just have a little bit more chat. But thank you, everyone, for watching. Give a big round of applause or snap to Coach Lee Hopkins for coming on here and sharing all about that. Love that.
I love it.
It's like a poetry slam.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you loved it, please subscribe. If you liked it, please like the video and join the community at The Mental Wellness Show on Instagram. We post a lot daily there. And we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.